welcome back to my channel. Today I will be covering UFO sightings and alien encounters in the state of Missouri. Shout out to subscriber Doug Laherty 8120 for requesting it. I hope I pronounced that right. Before we get into it, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment, as it really helps my channel out and really makes the algorithm happy. If you want to check out more of my paranormal videos, you can click on the pop-up on the top right corner for a full playlist. And if you have your own paranormal encounters, UFO sightings, or any other kind of strange story, you can either share it in the comments, post on my subreddit, r/IHaveASpookyStory, or send it to my story submission email, PinkPossiblyStories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. So, with all that out of the way, let's dive into it. Report many UFO sightings. From the Chronicle Herald, March 11th, 1969. Last week, this newspaper carried a story about an unusual sighting of some strange object by Bill Overstreet of Elmer as he was on his way to Atlanta one morning. The story was picked up by the Associated Press and published in the Kansas City Star and several other newspapers. Then all was quiet for a few days until last night when sightings at a great distance were reported all over Macon County and in several nearby towns. Numerous reports of star-like UFOs have been reported from Atlanta, Gifford, New Boston, Ethel, Elmer, and that area. They are estimated to be from 1/2 mile to a mile high and are white or varying in their color. Citizen Band radio people also report that other sightings were made early last night at Fulton, Cameron, MacLeod, Brookfield, Winnegan, and by several in Macon. Most of the sightings were of very slowly moving objects, but one reported by persons in different towns described one extremely fast-moving object that went southwest from the north part of the county and was sighted over Brookfield and near Cameron before it started coming back this way and was last seen over MacLeod. Two U-City teenagers frightened by mysterious light in sky. From the St. Louis Globe-Democrat, November 13th, 1969. Two University City teenagers reported to police of Ladue and University City they were frightened by a huge white light in the sky which followed them along Price Road. Joseph Miller, 19, of 7357 Melrose Avenue, and Miss Barbara Nehans, 19, of 7011 Lindell Avenue, described the object to University City Police as very bright and white in color, around 30 feet long with red and pink lights. Miller, a student at Merrimack Valley Community College, told the Globe-Democrat he and Miss Nehans were driving north on Price Road in Ladue about 11 p.m. Tuesday when they first noticed the object. It was real high up and looked like a star, Miller said. It came to about 10 feet over the car. I got scared and Barbara started crying. We tried to get away from it. When we turned onto Delmar Boulevard, it took off without any noise in a westerly direction. Miss Nehans, who was described by University City Police as hysterical when she was at the station Tuesday night, told the Globe-Democrat Wednesday, "I don't want to talk about it." Miller said he also reported the incident to Ladue Police. Both police departments received no other reports of a strange object in the sky, and officers surmised the couple may have seen the landing light on the nose wheel of a jet airliner before it entered the flight pattern of Lambert St. Louis Municipal Airport. Was the eerie light a prank? No one sure about sight. From the Columbia Tribune, August 21st, 1970. No one knows for sure how to explain the eerie light in the sky north of Columbia on Monday night, but several possible answers have been discussed by those investigating. About 10 persons have been contacted who apparently saw the mysterious light, and their descriptions, location, and estimations of the time are well matched. Whatever was in the sky that night looked like a ball of fire, was moving at a moderate speed in a direction not precisely determined, and suddenly disappeared from view. The time was about 10 p.m. All those who saw the light live within a couple of a mile radius from the home of Mrs. Alice Thompson, some 5 miles north of Interstate 70, not far from Highway 63 North. Mrs. Thompson was the first to report the sighting, and she has contacted several of her neighbors who saw it, including Harold Hughes and his son Sidney, Kurt Craybill, Mrs. Marie Moreau, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Davis, Geo Swank, and Kenneth Slaughter. W.B. Cook, an employee of Mrs. Thompson, also saw the object. An investigator of unidentified flying objects in this area, who asked not to be named, says similar sightings have been reported in other areas of the United States, particularly in the East. People there have seen a round ball of fire with something dangling from it like a rope, the exact description given by Mrs. Thompson. The other viewers say they were too far away to see any detail and describe it as an intense round light. Since the beginning of the UFO craze a few years ago, there have been thousands and thousands of weird apparitions cited by pilots and reliable witnesses across the country. Most of the time, where an investigation occurred, a simple logical answer was found. A few sightings were never explained. What took place Monday night? We may never know for sure, but chances are good that it was not an occult phenomenon. Here are some of the explanations that have been offered. 1. It was a weather balloon. A spokesman for the U.S. Weather Bureau here said they had no balloons in the air Monday night. At any rate, balloons do not emit light. 2. It was a satellite. The Weather Bureau says the sky is full of visible satellites, and one in particular, a survey satellite known as Pagios A, has been crossing over Missouri the past week. But all satellites are visible only as a pinpoint of moving light about as bright as a star. Descriptions from Monday night indicate a much more intense light source. 3. It was an airplane. Only one viewer mentioned a plane, and he said at first he thought the light was an aircraft with an engine on fire. He later changed his mind. The object was observed very low in the sky, and the only noise heard was a muffled popping sound, nothing like the sound of an airplane. The running lights of an aircraft do not give off intense light, and nearly everyone is accustomed to seeing airplanes. 4. It was an Army flare. The local Army Reserve had no men on any kind of field training that night and, in any case, would not have been on private property without notice. 5. It was Peabody Coal. This company conducts mining operations north of Columbia and occasionally moves its huge drain line. But a spokesman said the large equipment is located far to the east from where the sightings were made, and nothing was being moved on Monday night. The company does not use flares or anything else that would give off intense light, according to the spokesman. 6. It was a prank. This perhaps is the most likely of the suggested explanations. It is virtually impossible to check on whether pranksters were in the area that night, and it is easy to obtain a flare gun or some other unusual device which would give off intense light in the sky. Pranksters have been the explanation for UFOs in the past. Although the sighting area north of Prothersville is somewhat remote, pranksters could be the answer this time. 7. It was a UFO. Many people believe in UFOs. Decide for yourself. An informal search party tramped through the muddy fields north of town in an area where one observer, who at first thought it was a flare, believed the strange light came down. Nothing was found. To those who did not see the brilliant round light, and those who discount such stories to begin with, the entire affair is one to be greeted with skepticism, but unless a simple, positive answer is found, those who saw the light are not likely to forget it. Others report seeing phenomenal light show. From the Daily Tribune, August 19, 1970. Several additional persons have reported sighting some strange goings-on Monday night about 10 p.m. north of Columbia. Yesterday's Tribune reported that Mrs. Alice Thompson saw a round, brightly illuminated object low in the sky and had heard muffled pop sounds just prior to the sighting. W.B. Cook of 1102 Pennell Street was at Mrs. Thompson's trailer at the time and also saw the object. 17-year-old Sydney Hughes, who lives on Route 8, some 5 miles north of town, about a mile from Mrs. Thompson's home, has now confirmed, along with others, that he also saw a very bright light through the trees about the same time as the sighting claimed by Mrs. Thompson and Cook. Hughes said he had been visiting his brother's trailer Monday night and was about to drive away in his car shortly after 10 p.m. when he suddenly saw an intensely bright light coming from the north through a wooded area nearby. Hughes said the light illuminated the area and cast unusual shadows on his brother's trailer. He watched for about 2 minutes as the light went off and on several times before dissipating. Hughes then drove away and forgot the incident until Mrs. Thompson called him yesterday afternoon and told him of her sighting. "I was wondering what it was," Hughes said of the eerie light. "There wasn't anything going on out there." He reported what he had seen to his sister-in-law, and she remembered hearing a dull pop at that time, similar to what Mrs. Thompson reported hearing. Hughes said he thought at the time that perhaps Peabody Coal Company was moving a crane in that area that night, but a spokesman for the coal company said Peabody had no equipment there on Monday. Mrs. Thompson reports today that she has been calling her neighbors to ask if they saw anything unusual, and several have confirmed her Monday night sighting. Mr. and Mrs. Robert G. Davis, who live on Highway V about 2 miles from Mrs. Thompson's trailer, report that they saw what looked like a ball of fire low in the sky on Monday evening, and at first thought it was an airplane with an engine on fire. Davis said he did not detect much movement in the minute or so he saw the object and thought it must be moving away from him. He said they were looking in the direction of the Thompson residence to the northeast, and while they were wondering what it could be, the light disappeared. "It's the first time we ever saw anything like that," Davis said. Mrs. Marie Moreau, who lives about a half-mile away from Mrs. Thompson, said she saw a ball of fire that reminded her of a Roman candle ball floating through the air. Mrs. Moreau said the object disappeared from her view behind some trees as it drifted toward the Thompson home. Kurt Krabeel, 17, lives on Route 8, Creasy Springs Road, several miles from Mrs. Thompson, but he too reported sighting a ball of fire. Krabeel said the object was as large as the moon and very close to the ground. He was looking northeast at the strange phenomenon when it suddenly disappeared. Mrs. Thompson also reports that Harold Hughes, Route 8, father of Sydney Hughes, said he saw the ball of fire. An area resident who investigates unidentified flying objects said he is extremely interested in the sightings. The investigator, who asked not to be named, said he knows of several cases around the country where round flaming objects have been seen with a rope or cord dangling from them. Mrs. Thompson said she saw something hanging from the object Monday night, but the others who saw the light say they were too far away to see any detail. UFO sighted in Purcell area by family deputy. From the Joplin Globe, January 6, 1971. An unidentified flying object described as brighter than a harvest moon was sighted early Tuesday morning in the Purcell area by the James Henderson family. It was the third sighting of a UFO by the family since Thanksgiving week. The sighting was later confirmed by a deputy of the Jasper County Sheriff's Department who was dispatched to the scene after being called by the Hendersons. Henderson said when his wife awoke early Tuesday, she saw a bright object in the sky to the southeast, apparently about a mile away. She then awakened her husband and they called the sheriff's department. Deputy Sheriff Max Swagger arrived at the scene about 5:45 a.m. and reported seeing the UFO. He described it in a report to the sheriff's department as being 20 times brighter than a star and estimated that it was about 3/4 of a mile high in the sky. Swagger said the object started gaining altitude and headed in a southwesterly direction about 5:47 a.m. Henderson said Tuesday that there could be no comparison between the brightness of the object and a star. It does disappear in a star pattern, but at 6 a.m., no star is where it disappears. Henderson said the object, when he saw it, appeared like a skyhook with a ball hanging. I don't think it was a star, but I'm not going to say it was a UFO. Mrs. Henderson reported the object had a bright glow and appeared to be three-cornered. It was 6 or 7 times bigger than any star around in the sky, she said. A star twinkles and it glowed. It really gives you a weird feeling. It's just like it senses that you know that you are aware of it. Mrs. Billy Henderson, Henderson's mother, described the object as bright like someone shined a headlight in your eyes. The little bit of red in it ruled out a beacon. Members of the family first saw a UFO during Thanksgiving week and then again on Christmas morning. Mrs. Billy Henderson said she had just arrived in Purcell from Owasso, Michigan, Christmas morning and was asleep in the back of the family car when other members of the family awakened her, talking about a strange object in the sky. It would follow us whichever way we would go, she said. If we would stop, it stopped. If we moved, it moved away. Once when we started toward it, it went toward Elba. The object, according to the Hendersons, was seen no closer than a mile and makes no noise. They have seen it only between midnight and early morning. You wonder if our Air Force has some secret project or if there is something sitting up there watching us, Henderson said. Henderson said that his mother has never believed in flying saucers, but he added this time she is laughing out of the other side of her mouth. Egg-shaped UFO reported in Charleston. From the Charleston Enterprise Courier, April 12, 1973. Mrs. Dorothy Thompson of Cleveland Street reports the sighting of a UFO in Charleston last Friday night. Mrs. Thompson said she was getting ready to watch the 8 o'clock movie. Her TV went off, then came back on, and she saw a bright flash in her kitchen. She ran into the kitchen and looked out her back door, and the object was treetop high. She said it was egg-shaped, the top red and the bottom solid white. The lights did not flash and made no sound. The light flashed through her kitchen and traveled through the house. Mrs. Thompson said she last saw it treetop high when it moved across Cleveland Street, back of the Willis Forby home, and it traveled over the field back of his house. The whole incident lasted about 3 minutes, she said. She ran in and called her neighbor, but she wasn't at home. She called the radio station Monday morning, and they reported that they had had several calls about it. Mrs. Thompson said the object could not have been a plane as it was too low and the lights were not blinking but steady. UFOs glow spreading, spotted in Leadbelt area. From the Globe Democrat, April 23, 1973. 2 experienced pilots have reported chasing a glowing, disc-shaped object over Farmington, Missouri, before it outdistanced them in a tremendous burst of speed. The latest sightings have been made by dozens of residents of Flat River in Farmington, Missouri, just 70 miles south of St. Louis. The bright, white-colored objects were first seen hovering in the night sky in that area last week. Saucer-shaped UFOs continue to be seen nightly by residents in the Piedmont, Missouri area. Strange, shadowy objects have been reported gliding under the water of Clearwater Reservoir. And south of Piedmont, UFO investigators are examining soil and burned plant life from a wooded area near Elsinore, Missouri, where a woman motorist said she saw a disc-shaped object land during daylight hours 2 weeks ago. Kenneth Pingle, a commercial pilot with more than 5,000 flying hours, was returning to Farmington Airport with another experienced pilot, Marvin Collier, about 10:30 p.m. Thursday, April 12th, when he first noticed a strange light off the left wingtip. Pingle said the bright, white-colored object seemed to keep pace with the single-engine Piper Cherokee as the airplane cruised 150 miles an hour, 3,500 feet above a forested area 20 miles north of Farmington. The object was circular-shaped and looked off-white in color, gradually turning yellow and taking on an orange tinge, Pingle said. It did not appear to spin. Pingle said the object seemed to give off heat waves, like the kind you see on highways during a hot day, as it moved across the clear sky. We flew our traffic pattern and were about to land on the north runway. We were making our final approach when we both saw the object, which appeared to give off a beam of white light, he said. Thinking the object was directly in the plane's flight path, Pingle said, he accelerated and pulled the plane out of its landing approach. It looked like it was moving at us at a high rate of speed, so I pulled back up and flew toward it. It immediately stopped, reversed its direction, and flew away from us at a high rate of speed, he said. Pingle said he chased the object at 140 miles an hour for several miles before the UFO disappeared. Other Farmington residents also reported seeing the strange light that night. We're both qualified for night operations, and I've flown many nights under all kinds of conditions, Pingle said. This was definitely not a star or any kind of airplane, and until someone explains to me what it is, I guess I'll have to say I saw a UFO. Pingle, 23, has been flying for 9 years. Collier is also an anesthesiologist at Farmington Community Hospital. Jewel Henson, Southern Missouri District Representative for the United Steelworkers Union, has reported seeing the strange objects nightly in the sky over his Ironton, Missouri home since last Tuesday. Some of the objects appear to have red, white, and blue lights, while others seem to emit a bright white shaft of light, he said. You see a red, blue, and white light when you put up binoculars to them. They hang in the sky for long periods of time, then move away, he said. I think it's an experimental device being used by our government or another government, he said. If our government has an experiment going, they've really got something fast because these things move. Mrs. Raymond Stucker may have happened onto a flying saucer nest or landing site as she was driving toward her home in Elsinore 2 weeks ago. Mrs. Stucker told the authorities she saw a large, metallic-colored, disc-shaped object either landing or taking off from a grove of trees off the highway. The object was described as circular with a band around the center and a domed top with porthole-like windows. Landing pods or stilts protruded from the bottom of the object. It made no noise as it hovered in the air. Hayden C. Hughes, director of the International UFO Bureau in Oklahoma City, went to the area and found trees badly scorched to a height of 50 feet. Samples of plant life and soil were taken for chemical analysis. Hughes says he believes the Piedmont area is a flying saucer base where alien beings may be carrying out a mining operation. The area is rich in lead, decayed radioactive metal, he points out. The red, blue, and amber lights frequently reported seen coming from UFOs could be part of an elaborate camouflage system designed to make the object look like a star when in flight, he said. Was it a UFO? I saw what I saw. From the Leadbelt News, April 26, 1973. I couldn't believe my eyes when I first saw it. The brilliant image moving slowly across the sky must be a plane or a satellite or some other recognizable object, I kept telling myself. It couldn't be a UFO. Bud Parker, a friend of mine who was riding with me, was the first to see the strange object. We were driving north on the Hillsborough Road just a little northeast of Esther last Thursday evening when Bud sighted the object high in the sky to his right. It was moving south. The time was around 8:30 p.m. This was our second night of searching for the strange object that was reported to have been sighted in the general area over the past few days. We had seen nothing on Wednesday evening, and we hadn't really expected to see anything Thursday either. I stopped the car, we jumped out, and I immediately began taking pictures of the object as it continued to move its southerly direction. We estimated the position of the object to be moving directly over the Old St. Louis Road, which runs parallel to the road we were on. When the object had passed by us, we got back in the car, turned around and headed south until we caught up with it about a mile down the road. Again, I stopped the car, got out, and began taking pictures. Then a strange thing happened. The object began moving backward, north, for a short pace, and then it turned slightly and began moving in a northeasterly direction. Believing we could get a better and maybe closer look of the object from the Old St. Louis Road, we got in the car and traveled south for a short distance, then turned onto an old road which took us to the Old St. Louis Road. We continued north on the Old St. Louis Road for about 3 miles, but we couldn't spot the object. Thinking that we possibly had passed it, I turned around in the Ralph Turley driveway and headed back south. About a mile down the road, we again sighted the strange object. The time was about 8:50 p.m. This time, the object appeared to be coming from the direction of the Hillsborough Road, and it was heading east toward us. I pulled into a gravel road a little south of the object in the sky. We got out of the car and I began taking more pictures. Then, all of a sudden, I thought my eyes were deceiving me because the object seemed to turn slightly toward us and began to descend as it approached us. But apparently my eyes were correct, as Bud said the same thing aloud that I was thinking. The object is descending and moving slightly toward us. Judging that the object would land somewhere ahead of us in the field across the road, we jumped back into the car in an effort to get closer and pinpoint its expected landing site. However, as we started back down the road, the object suddenly turned and headed northeast down and across the road in front of us. Its speed was unbelievable. I was driving about 60 miles per hour, and yet we appeared to be sitting still as the object gained altitude and streaked across the sky. I stopped about 1.25 miles down the road. We estimated the object to be over French Village by that time. We pulled off the road and waited, hoping it would reappear. About 9:10 p.m., we spotted it momentarily over the Des Lodge area. The object was heading south. A short time later, we again picked up the object where it appeared to be over the radio tower of KFMO radio station. Then we lost it. The strange object was somewhat oval-shaped, and from our furthest point of observation, it appeared to be about 3 times the size of a satellite. At the closest point of observation, the object appeared about 6 times its original size. We had no means of determining the size of the object or its height. The object was very bright and had a slight trace of yellowish color when it was at its closest point of observation. It made no noise. As a matter of record, the day was overcast, thus eliminating any star or satellite. Maneuverability of the object ruled out any plane or other recognizable flying object also. Although I had my camera set for a 4-second exposure, the pictures did not take. Later, I learned that at least a 20-second timed exposure is needed to photograph objects at a distance after dark. I could have kicked myself. What we saw was indeed strange and hard to describe. No doubt many people won't believe me. I only know that I saw what I saw. UFOs Brighton Evening. From the Post-Dispatch, June 14th, 1973. A St. Charles postal clerk on his night off had been drinking beer with his friends in their backyard Tuesday night. Then the four objects, brightly glowing balls of whitish light, appeared out of the north sky, moving southward. Robert Baumbach saw them first about 9:30 p.m. They were careening through the cloud banks and maneuvering at high speeds. They started out the size of headlights or a streetlight and gradually diminished as they moved eastward until they were small points of light at the time the gathering at the Gettings home, 2401 Charleston Street, broke up about midnight. Barry and Dolores Gettings and Robert and Patricia Baumbach watched the objects cavort for some time, then began calling neighbors to witness the sighting. Nobody wanted to call the police. My husband had a business, and all the policemen know him, Mrs. Gettings said. He said if he called, they'd laugh him right out of town, but he told me I could call. Baumbach finally summoned Patrolman Reuben Abington about 10 p.m., when the lights were still large. Abington called the station, and soon 5 more police cars, a motorcycle patrolman, and several off-duty policemen rolled up to watch the spectacle. We must have had half the St. Charles Police Department out here looking at them, Baumbach said. I just wanted some authorities to verify this. We had been drinking beer, but not that much. Detective Daryl Tulloch, who said he had been interviewing a prisoner at about 11:25 when another call came in about the objects, confirmed the sighting, as did several other detectives and patrolmen. Those were the weirdest things I've ever seen, Tulloch said. Weird, weird, weird. He described them as veering off at high speeds, hovering, and making incredible turns. At one point, one of the lights began following an airplane that had apparently just taken off from Lambert Field, accelerating until it matched the plane's speed, then flying along above it until finally shooting upward then downward. Mrs. Gettings described some of the movements as a game of chicken. 2 lights would zoom toward each other on a collision course. Then one would shoot up at a steep angle and the other down. At other times, one of the lights would hop over another one. The number of lights in the game varied from 3 to 4, but only 2 were left when the lights finally disappeared on the eastern horizon. Baumbach said that the airport had been notified when the plane was being escorted by the light, but attempts to track it with radar had been futile. Baumbach, who had been a radar operator in the Air Force and had had several pilots report UFOs, said he was concerned by the lights, especially when they appeared to be growing closer, flying low over the rooftops. All I know is that there is no aircraft in this country which will accelerate as fast as those things were going, he said. To make sure it was no mirage, the Baumbachs, Mrs. Gettings' children, and several neighbors kept watch last night. Again, they saw the bright objects dancing in the sky, although this time somewhat dimmer than the night before. It wasn't lightning, and at first I thought someone might have been doing tricks with a spotlight, Baumbach said, of the Tuesday sighting. But no one could move a spotlight around that fast. Besides, a light would reflect off a cloud, but not a clear blue sky. Those lights glowed brighter in the clear patches. It looked like a flying saucer to me, said Stacy Gettings, 8 years old. As soon as we went to bed, I got in with my sister Monica. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with everything I post. Don't forget to leave a comment, as I always love getting to talk to you all and like hearing your stories and feedback. If you have your own spooky story, UFO encounter, cryptid sighting, or any other kind of scary story, you can either share it in the comments, post on my subreddit, r/I-have-a-spooky-story, or send it to my story submission email, pinkpossiblystories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. See you next time. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the shadows bite.